Hi knitters, welcome to PJ Knits. My name is Penny and I live in Central Illinois, and I'm a knitter, a blogger, and a YouTube podcaster. And thank you for spending some time with me. Why don't you grab a cuppa or a drink or some water or whatever you're drinking at this hour of the day, and join me for some talk of knitting. This is my knitting journal, and I'm just pleased to have you all here with me. I am Penny. If I didn't say that before, I did say that, sorry. I live in Central Illinois, just to give you a thought of where in Central Illinois I live outside of Peoria, in a town called Pekin, Illinois. I've lived here most of my life, with the exception of a small little stint on my beginning of my senior year when we lived in Indianapolis and almost immediately moved back to Pekin before really could be too much of an inhabitant of Indianapolis. But that is where I am located in Central Illinois. It is Monday, August 1st, 90 degrees outside, sunny. We had a huge thunderstorm go by this very early this morning. I didn't have any issues, but my nephew that lives nearby is without power for a while and had some trees down, so they might have had a little mini tornado come through there. I don't know, but they had quite the wind. But so anyway, welcome to my knitting journal. I have a lot of knitting things that I want to talk to you about today. But first, I'm going to talk to you about a weekend that was the most fun I've had in a long, long time. First getaway for several years. And it was the Frivolous and Frugal and Ply Podcast mini meetup in Hoffman Estates up near Chicago. Went up with and spent time with my friends Debbie and Kendra from Peoria, and met all kinds of new friends face to face. Some of you that watch the podcast, and I met some new podcasters, and some that I watch. I met them face to face, which was so much fun too. Spent some time with Pandemic Knitter Beth, and also with Kelly and Noelle from Knits and Pieces, and James from Dudeknits, and again the gals from Frivolous Frugal, and also Ply, and there were other podcasters there as well. So I want to share just a little bit about the weekend. Well, I'm going to share a lot about the weekend, let's just put it that way. So grab your cuppa and settle in, and later on after the video uploads, I will put some show notes in there and probably some coupon codes down the road as soon as I get those from Dawn that my viewers can take advantage of as well. So let's just start with, on Thursday, Debbie and I went up and we went to the outlet mall up towards Chicago and Elgin area, and did a little shopping. And we always try to hit the outlet mall because it's been several years since I've been to one, I can tell you that. So anyway, we did that, and then we headed over to the hotel and checked in our hotel, and then we spent Thursday night in the lobby just knitting with a huge group of ladies, meeting new people, and it was so much fun. It was a really kind of like a get to know people that had showed up early, and there was quite a crowd on Thursday night. On that night we got to meet Dawn and Penny and Joyce and Irene, and then on Saturday we got to meet Angie as well. So we spent a lot of time having just the bestest time, and seeing what everybody was knitting on. I learned about some new yarns and some things that I wanted to look at when we went shopping. So that's what we did on Thursday night. Friday morning we went down to the main room, checked in, and we got a lovely little goodie bag with some fun stuff inside it. Got some accessories and all kinds of goodies in my little goodie bag, and then got a sample of a yarn that was created especially, for the crinkling on a colorway that was done especially for the retreat. This was done by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts, and this will be available, I understand, later in larger skeins. Dawn was working on a muscle burl hat out of this, and I can't wait to get my hands on some of this. This is, there you go. And it is a merino nylon. It's called Frivolous and Frugal Meetup is the colorway. And there is a coupon code for 15% off next order, and we'll put that in the show notes. But isn't that lovely? That was in a lot of our goodie bags. So I can't wait to get my own big skein of this rather, and do some fun with that. So that was all that was in our goodie bag. That was on Friday. We went down and knitted for a while. And then Kendra and Debbie and I, we headed off to Elgin Knitworks and started there to do some yarn shopping. And Thursday night, Melissa introduced me to a new yarn. It's called Barocco Remix. And all along I had in my mind that it was that Rowan did a remix. But what they really did was theirs was called Revive. And now this is Barocco Remix. And there's a remix and a remix light. And so I chose this. When we got to Elgin Knitworks, she had a sample of Yume knit up in it. And I've talked about this pattern before. And so I bought enough of a sweater quantity of this colorway so that I can make the long sleeve version. I think will be a great transitional sweater into winter and back out in springtime. And so this is the pattern, Yume. And I'm going to do the long sleeve version of it out of that. So Elgin Knitworks is a lovely yarn shop. They have all kinds of really neat samples up and things to look at, just some fun stuff. And so I purchased enough of that. And then Angie showed on, and they talked about also on their podcast, on Three Ply Podcast, a cowl that was all stockinette. And I received the pattern. This is a pattern that it's called the L cowl, and it's an Elgin Knitworks pattern. And so I've got it. It came with the pattern, with the yarn. Somehow I can't talk. Is that kind of like the re-entry back after retreat mode? I think it must be. But anyway, a lot of people were using Dyerful yarns, and come to find out, Dyerful yarns is a local dyer to the Elgin area, and a lot of people were knitting with that and in various weights. And so I had to try it. That was my main focus when I was going to Elgin Knitworks, is to make sure that I was getting that yarn, because I wanted to try something new. And then I remembered this cowl, and so I happened upon this one first. This particular yarn is a mohair. This is what they were holding with it. It is Essentials, Rico Design Essentials Super Kid Mohair Silk. It's print, universal, and it's just color 011. But I saw this, and so then we went to the Dyerful Yarns weight for this, and I'm going to put this together. And this one is called Slasher Sock. It is Cornish Pixie. So I'm going to put the two of these together, there you go, for a cowl. That'll be fun. So, and I'm anxious to cast this on. This will be a wonderful project just to play with. So, but I wanted to podcast about it first before I went off and wound it up, because I think it's going to be super, super cool. And I will show it to you again in a future episode. Pardon me. I am still dealing with allergies, so they say. So thank goodness for coffee. I apologize in advance for the coughing. Can't be helped. It seems like I only want to cough when, I have something to say. So anyway, then I highly recommend Elgin Knitworks. I will go back there. I think it'd be a great day trip as well, because Betsy and Linda are so welcoming, and they're so nice, so friendly, and so very helpful. And there was several other items that I want to knit and pick up yarn there. Love that shop. So it was a hit. I'd been to Elgin Knitworks many, many years ago, and had not been back until this time. So it was fun. Loved it, and it was a fun place to go. And I would definitely do it again. So anyway, sorry about that. Then we shot over to Wool & Company and saw their new shop that they've got very clean lines, a lot of yarns, a lot of Brooklyn tweed, and I got to feel the La Bien-Aimée Cory and the Hedgehog Tweedies and Rama yarn and Rowan yarns. They have a lot, and they have a lot on their website, and I have ordered from their website as well. So they have, a lot of times what I said is, when I see a pattern, some of the new patterns coming out, I see a yarn and I don't have access to it locally. I really want to knit it. I want to try new yarns, obviously. And so I'm like, I want to knit it out of that. So I think Wool and Company is a good source for those kinds of things as well. A lovely new spot that they are in. So totally love that time as well. Then on Friday, after that, we went back, had some dinner, and went back. And Friday night, went back to the rooms and knit again and met new people. Friday night, they did door prizes, and I am so pleased to show you what I won. I won a Queen Sandy bag, and I know that those of you who have been to have watched both 3-Ply and Frivolous and Frugal know all about Queen Sandy. So I was the recipient of one of her bags. I am totally over the moon because this is just like so me. This reminds me of Twofold. It has my colors in it, but it also reminds me of a little being in France, somewhere I would love to go back to at some point in time. Wonderfully made bag. It's going to be my new bag to carry for the rest of the summer, and into that, it's going to be a great thing to take down when I'm going down into the shop or going knitting, or when I take my next knitting adventure in a couple of weeks. Isn't that so super cool? Mini Meetup 2022. Sandy does a lovely, lovely job on her bags. It has a zip on the inside, and she does not sell these, but she made a ton of these for the retreat. Oh my gosh, she is such a generous, generous lady, and such a fun lady to talk to and be with. She's just so giving and so very, very nice. I can't say enough about her. And so thank you for that bag, ladies of the podcast, and also for Sandy. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. So I was so excited that I won a bag, because I'm a bag lady. You know that, guys. You never can have enough bags. So anyway, so that was on Friday night, and I got introduced to the group as all the podcasters that attended, and they had on the a board telling people who was attending that night. There were some podcasters, and I want to shout out here 3-Ply Podcast, Dudeknits, Got Whips, Knits and Pieces, Magpies Cottage. She donated some door prizes as well. Pandemic Knitter, Frivolous and Frugal, and then myself, pjknits. So I'm going to list those podcasters and people and Queen Sandy as well. Important, people, and I don't want to say important people, but podcasters and people who donated to the retreat door prizes, and their loveliness. Let's just put it that way, because there was bag makers as well, and a lot of bag makers, and so it's just fun. Stephanie, I believe, Nikki, Kim, Cheryl, they all donated some bags, I believe. And so it was just, I want to shout out to all of those people. So then on Saturday, we elected just to stay in and knit. Debbie and I did a couple of walks here and there around the grounds, and had some lunch, had some dinner in our, what I love is, once I get to a retreat place like that, say in Chicago, for example, I like to have my food come to me. And so I'm willing to pay a little bit of a delivery fee to get food delivered to me. And so we did that. And then on Saturday night, we everybody went to the other room, and we had cake for the birthday party, and more giveaways were given away. And then bless Frivolous and Frugal Dawn and Penny, they did, they had little gifts for the podcasters there, and so I was the recipient of a Julie Aslan Lezu DK, her merino silk, some mini sets, Souple and Lumineuse. So I'm so excited about being able to use these. Aren't these cool? I've used Julie Aslan DK before, and I love it. And Elgin Knitworks carries Julie Aslan in a couple of different weights. And I would go back to them again to get that. But look at that. I am going to start thinking seriously about what this is going to be. Is that not beautiful? That is so cool. So we received this, a special gift, and thank you. And also then one other thing, they had a put and take table that you could take things that you wanted to, that you didn't want it in your stash, books or bags or yarns, and there was some pom-poms on Saturday morning, so I got a couple of pom-poms off of that table, so that was kind of fun. They had a rehoming of knits back in the corner, and there was on Saturday several things. I know Debbie, she got this wonderful shawl that's perfect for her. She got that off, and it just was lovely for her. There was a snack table in the room that people would come and bring snacks, and there was plenty of food there so that nobody was ever going to go hungry should you need that. There was water, there was coffee, there was a Keurig, there was tea. So these ladies totally took care of us this weekend. I can't tell you how much fun I had and how I will definitely go back next year. I am there. And again, I'm creating friendships, creating more community, and it was so much fun. I just can't tell you how much fun it was. And so again, Dawn, Penny, Irene, Joyce, Angie, thank you for a wonderful weekend, a wonderful re-entry into going back with knitting adventures. So that was my first of a couple of knitting adventures that I'm going to do this year. And I will talk about those here again. And I will also blog about it and Instagram about that as well. So, okay. Let's jump into summer sweaters. Excuse me. Let's talk about summer sweaters. Couple of things. I have more to show you, more summer sweaters, and I will show you each. Every week I will try and show you, because I want to give you an idea of what. And these are sweaters right now that I have knit in the past, that I have been wearing, that I will wear now through, until it turns a little bit chillier. But I wanted to share with you a couple of things. I am knitting on my last summer sweater. I do believe that after I get done with what I'm knitting on now for summer, that's going to be it. I'm going to transition probably into my current purchases, for transitional sweaters, because again, I want to be ready when the season comes. And I know this summer I've had that FOMO, because still people are coming out and showing some summer sweaters, and I just don't have time to knit them all to have them ready to wear. Yeah, there's just no way that's going to be happening. So I will start after the first of the year with my summer sweaters, because I have yarn and I have a file. I've talked about that before. I keep a file of sweaters for the season, so I can pull that file out after the first of the year and start knitting on it. So let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to talk about what's on my Miss Manny here. This is what I thought. I thought this was called Remix, but it's called Revive. It is a Rowan yarn, and I knit this some time ago, and it just so happened when I purchased this, and many years, let's say greater than 5 years, when I bought it, it was going to be a vesty type thing, and over the time I decided that I really didn't want the pattern that I had selected, so I just left it in my stash. Well, in 2016, when I first started watching Melissa and Lisa at the time, Espace Tricot, their podcast that they had in the beginning, they had done this ombre tank. This is a free pattern from Espace Tricot. It's called Ombre, and so I knit this. I bought the yarn from them when I first learned about them in 2016. The yarn is Habu textile. It's silk cones, and what I did is this is an exact duplicate of the tank that they knit, and it's done with the cone yarn from Habu Textiles, and you do 2 threads together, and then you drop one and you add the next colorway, and then you do the same thing. You add the solid, and then you drop that and add one, and then you finish off. It has a rolled hem, which I'm not always a fan of, especially for me, because it hits, right at my belly point, and I'm always constantly thinking it's right there. But I love this tank. And again, this is a free pattern from Espace Tricot. So I had it, once I knit it, then I was like, well, for those of you who watch and have seen me in person, you know that I have arms. I have this, and I call them my pelican arms, and that's just the way they are. I'm sure I think it's hereditary, but I'm not one unless it's 125 degrees in the shade. Am I one to take off and bare my arms? I just don't do it because, I just don't want to, and I think I'm not in the minority there. So anyway, it just so happened at the time that I went to my stash, and I'm like, look at that Revive. I think it goes very well with this, and all I wanted was a simple little over sweater to go over with it. And what I did is I went into my stash of patterns, and back in 2017, 2018-ish, the hot thing for us in our local yarn shop that was open there was a patterns called Knitting Pure and Simple, which is Diane Susie, and you can still get these. These patterns are great, I think, for beginning knitters after you get a small little sweater under your belt to go back and knit with these. And so they're Knitting Pure and Simple, still available, and you can get them various different ways. But like I said, our local yarn shop carried the physical paper patterns. And every time a new one came out, I have a binder, no kidding, that's probably that thick, of these in different varieties because they just were very easy to follow, an easy pattern to do, and just basics, I thought. So Knitting Pure and Simple. And so what I did for my Revive one is I took Knitting Pure and Simple, the Neckdown Summer Cardigan, okay, and I knit it, and I knew that I did not. This particular one shows buttons, but I knew that I just wanted a simple straight. I didn't want to put buttonholes in. This was not one of those things. I don't really care because I don't really button anything up. I like it, but I also like them to fit just about like this. I don't want them gapping open. I want it as much as some of them do because I don't want to I keep pulling them, thinking that I need to pull them. So I just did that without the buttons. And I did this in Rowan Pure Life Revive, and the colorway is 461 Pumice. Okay, so that's, that was kind of a basic that I did for quite a while, and again, Knitting Pure and Simple. And if you're teaching somebody how to knit, or you're a new knitter, this may be something that you want to kind of investigate. Now, she also has, this one's a top-down lightweight cardigan, and you could do this in fingering weight as well. This is another one as well. And like I said, there is a plethora of patterns out there from Diane Susie of Knitting Pure and Simple. So then next up, one of the things that I want to show you is another tank. This particular one is called Big Wave, and this is by Heidi Kirrmaier. And this is kind of indicative of some of the things that she has been doing, and I've made several of these of her patterns that have these eyelets. And I knit this particular one out of a Plymouth yarn. It was Hannah. I bought it at my local yarn shop a couple of years ago. And this is very similar to Big Sand, Fine Sand with the eyelet details. It has a rounded neck. It covers the bra straps, which I love. and comes up high enough. And I'm just going to take it off for you all and just stand up and show you the eyelet, the side eyelet detail here. It also has that roll hem, but I made that it's a little bit longer, which I like. Again, so it's not as rolly as I would think. And then has this detail on the side. So I really do like that. This is her big wave, and it's comfortable. And I like the way, and it comes up. Again, arms, covers the bra, covers up here. I think you have great coverage for those, you know, and you really could just go out and about with that. So then, as luck would have it, I already had a sweater that would go over it. I have this jean jacket that has this color accents in it, and I can wear it over that later in the year, but but not in the heat of summer. So as luck would have it, I had a pattern already in some sweaters that I had knit. And this particular one is another Knitting Pure and Simple. This is the Summer Open Cardigan. Here we go. I, of course, made some modifications to this particular one. I did, instead of rib, I did the seed stitch here, and I did the seed stitch on the sleeve as well. And again, I always, as you can see, this one comes, she has it's a little tight down to there, and I have a little bit larger because I wanted to make sure that it just came straight out. I did seed there as well. I also, on this one, I lengthened it, and I talked about this probably last summer as well. And I just like this particular one. This is made for worsted weight yarn. So, and the thing I liked about this particular one was done out of Plymouth Yarn Kudo, but it's been discontinued. But there are a lot of options probably out there for now for heavier cottons that you could do for summer. And I get a lot of compliments out of this whenever I wear it. The nice thing about it, again, too, is that on this particular, if you get a colorful one, you can certainly, I can wear whatever color tank I want underneath it or a sweater. So I just really, I like this one. It's fun. It's a great wear as well. So I really wanted to talk about those Knitting Pure and Simple patterns because I think that they are, again, a great beginner pattern, a great quick covery up pattern if you are so inclined to look for, and you know, an easy pattern for a new knitter. May not be as popular as the latest craze out there, but still a good basic pattern, you know, when you just want something to knit. So anyway, and then finally, as I said, I am working on my last summer sweater, official summer sweater, let's call it that. And I talked about Edie. This is by Isabelle Kraemer. And I have not worked on it as much because I've been working on a shawl, but I can tell you that when last we met, this is where I was at. And now I have progressed down, and I hope to get back at this. This will be I will take this down to the Fiber Universe when I go down tomorrow, because this was out of her yarn. And as you can see, I am doing the, every so often, the textured stitch in it. Edie has a little bit shorter sleeve, but I, again, am going to make it longer, at least right before the elbow bend, as I always do. But after this, I am moving on to transitional sweaters because that's the time. And is anybody else looking at winter sweaters already? I am, even though it's 90 degrees, because I know it's going to be like this. But man, I am excited to move on. But I got to finish. You know, we got to do some finishing as well. So anyway, this is Edie, and this has been a fun knit, and out of a linen cotton nettle yarn. So this is one that I had purchased at my local yarn shop. So that is going to be the last of my summer sweaters. And I'd love to know if you guys are all knitting on some summer sweaters. Share with us in the Ravelry group, which is pjknits, or down below. Make a comment. That would be fun too. So, summer of shawls. Okay, I want to share some shawls with you next, first of all. And this episode, I'm going to talk about some of my faves. And when I started thinking about what shawls I could show you from that I've knit, that I am really, really in love with, they all have a central theme. I am connected to each and every one of these shawls by friends that I have met through knitting adventures, knitting retreats, knitting camp, ZK, and these are from people that I am friends with. And even though I don't always see them, we are good friends. And so I'm just excited that there was a central theme here. Not really planned, it just happened that way. So first off, I'm going to show you Feather and Fan Triangle Shawl. This is out of the Folk Shawls book that I have talked about before. And I have shown this once before too, probably a couple of years ago in one of the podcasts when I was talking about the folk shawls. But anyway, this is a favorite of mine, and I'm going to tell you first about the yarn. One year, 8 or 9 years ago, I went to knitting camp. Well, prior to that, I was watching a friend on Instagram, and she posted this yarn that she had spun, Linda Podoco. And I made just a remark on it, and in kidding and knowing she would take it that way. I'm like, oh, you're doing some yarn for me. You knew that was my colorway. So when we got to knitting camp that year, during her show and tell, she made me cry. It doesn't take much to make me cry, guys. I'm just saying. She gifted me the yarn. Unexpectedly, made me cry. So the next year, I felt like I had to have for my show and tell, I had to knit something with it. And so I vacillated over it all winter long, figuring out what to do, and came up with the Feather and Fan shawl out of this yarn, which I love. Hand spun yarn. It's a huge shawl, but I love it. I love that I can wrap it up in, and I think I used almost every piece of it. It's a triangular shawl. It's fun. It has eyelets on it, and then you get down to the feather and fan and gives you some more fun. I love this. Again, took it back to knitting camp and showed it and wore it, and so here we are. My first of favorite shawls, and all because of knitting friends, our knitting community that I met through Meg Swanson's knitting camp. And I wanted to do a pattern that from Cheryl's book because I met her through knitting camp and consider her a friend as well. Next up, also a friend from knitting camp and somebody I still am in contact with, is from the Ultima Thule book by Denise Bell. Denise of Lost City Knits designs some fabulous patterns and some lovely dyed yarns. She does some really neat classes for stitches, online events and in person. When they actually have Stitches Midwest, Lost City Knits brings their yarn to the events, and oh my gosh, Denise and Chris are super sweet. And Denise met her really, really in person at knitting camp. Sat across me all the time, sits across from me. And so this is a favorite. This is the Lerwick Harbour Hap Shawl. They're in this, you can buy these off of Ravelry as well, but you could also get her book. She does some lovely lace designs, does some Hap Shawl classes, and not only that, some Shetland lace things as well, some Shetland classes. So anyway, here's one from the book. She had kits. Let's see. I think just super, super cool. Oh, this one you have to see. I have this still in the works. Is that not beautiful? That's one of her patterns. Look at this. These colorways. And, of course, that one on the front. The book has essays in it that by Chris. He went back over there and talked to some people. Here's another colorway. This is the colorway Debbie did. So this is the Lerwick Harbour. And I did mine out of Lost City Knits yarn, of course, in her Foothills fingering that's being discontinued. But here it is. And if you follow my Instagram, earlier, about a month or so ago, Debbie and I blocked a friend of hers baby shawl on blocking frame that I got that Chris had made me several years ago as well, that I purchased from them. But here we go. And I have yarn to make another one of these haps, and I want to make it larger. Well, we'll talk about haps as well. I'm going to talk about haps, shawls, in another episode, because I want to knit another one. I have yarn for another one out of Denise's yarn. I have a black one on the needles, and I have a Shetland shawl from that's Spindrift yarn, Jameson, that I got, that needs the border on it, that I got from Schoolhouse Press. So we're going to talk about hap shawls before the summer's all over with. But anyway, this is another one of those shawls that it's fun to take along when you want something to cover up with, or a pillow, or a blanket, or you need to throw something down and change a baby on. You can also, again, on these, because much like the half and half, you can make them triangular as long as you need. You can, you know, if in the wintertime, you can wrap it up around your neck and go out if you want, right? So it's just a wonderful, wonderful, versatile, I think, shawl. And that square shawl is versatile because it can be triangular as well. But again, we'll talk about hap shawls before the summer's over with, or maybe into the fall, because I definitely want to be knitting some more of these. So, gosh, there's not enough knitting time, guys. I need some more knitting time. Next one up is called Breathe and Hope, and this is by my friend Lindsay. I belong to a group, and these next, all of the rest of these are all part of a Knitmas that we were doing for several years, where after Christmas and before February-ish, you had somebody's name and you would knit them something. Now, there was a couple of skein requirement, and you could use from their queue. You know, do one of those covert operations to look into their queues and see what their favorites were, what they had and they wanted to knit, but they hadn't got around to knitting yet, right? And so these next ones are all part of Knitmas gifts that were given as part of that group. And so this first one is called Breathe and Hope. This was my 2021 Knitmas gift from Lindsay. And this was the Casapinka. It's a Casapinka pattern. And she did it out of the Emma's Yarn Super Silky. And this is a favorite to wear in later as we go into the winter and into the spring. It's a great spring sweater. Isn't that lovely? This is totally cool. I wore it down to the shop. Look at that. So that is a favorite shawl. My friend Lindsay. Next one up is from my friend Annetta, and this is called Bad Nut. This is from Knitmas 2019, and I scoped out her project page, and she did this out of Malabrigo Rios. This is one of the Josh Ryks patterns that was on my queue, and I just never got it done, and thank goodness I didn't have to. But here it is. This is cool. So again, a nice little pattern as well. And I love this. I have this perfect top that I wear this with because it wraps around and hangs and keeps my neck warm. I wrap them around and keep them, and usually with this in the front a lot because I want to keep it warm, and then have this the longer ends dangle in front. So that is Bad Nut. And then finally, I do not know what the pattern is on this one, but this was from Kim, and this was one of the early Knitmas ones that I got. This is out of a super chunky yarn. Very warm, very much fun.
let's get to the right side here. This is from Kim, who's a knit miss. Isn't that cool? And then you want to see the fun piece as we come down, come down, come down. Look at that. There's Pum Pum in my colorway. Is that not cool? So those are some favorites of mine, all wrapped up in people that have been knit for me, or I have bought the yarn from people, or I have received yarn that has been specially spun, and these are all from knitting acquaintances that became friends, part of my friend circle of knitters. And it just goes back to show you again, and what I say over and over and over, knitting friends are the best friends, and we have this common binding together of our love of yarn and knitting and just camaraderie. And I don't know what I would have done all these years without my knitting friends. Let's just put it that way. They're the ones I'm surrounded with through everything, the fun, the sad, and everything in between, and vice versa, I hope, as well. Okay, so those are some shawls that I wanted to show you. Winding down. We're doing Summer of Shawls still. Please tell us about them in the Ravelry group. Do hashtag on Instagram, Summer of Shawls 2022, and give us some pics of what you're knitting on. That would be fun to see. I have a finished object that I want to talk about. For those who have been with me, I'm still on the half and half. I'm doing some presents, some half and half shawls for presents. Before I forget, just got an email this morning. Between now and Thursday, which is 8/4/22, Pearl Soho is doing 20% off of their Pearl Soho branded items. So linen quill, I believe, is 20% off through Thursday. So if you're so inclined to buy linen quill, now's the time. Okay, just want to shout that out because I know there's a lot of you who want to knit one of those as part of a knit along that Frivolous and Frugal and Ply are having starting, I believe, September 1st. So just saying, if you want to get some yarn for half and halves, now would be a good time to do it. Okay. Anyway, finished a half and half that I have. This is a little bit different one, I'm going to say. This particular one I did out of Valley Yarns Sunderland, which is about a DK 100% alpaca. On this particular one, I used a size 7 Chiagu needle. Okay, I cast on 190 stitches because I wanted, going forward, I want all of my half and halves to be just a little bit larger, and for the people that I'm doing them for, they're taller women than me, and I want them to be able to encompass them as well. So this was my first one out of DK. And I did 190 stitches. 100% alpaca. I will say this. I liked this one. For me, I think this is very heavy. I think it's substantial, okay, if you're so inclined. I think I'm not going to block this because I think it's large enough. And I'm afraid that when I block the alpaca, it's going to grow and get larger than that I want it to. I'm on the fence about what to do about that. But you can see that it's pretty long. I want to say it's over 42 wide. Okay? Yeah. It's probably larger than that if we stop to think about it. I kind of, did one of those half measuring things last night on it. So I don't think that I'm going to do another DK one. I think I am going to strictly stay with the linen quill ones that I'm doing. That to say, yeah, right now in length, just as I barely, and it's just laying over here, it's about 50 inches when I get, yeah, at least 50, 51. So this is a substantial one. And for the person that this is going to be for, not a tall person, but it will be perfect for a blanket, I think, anyway. But anyway, so this is the half and half, okay? And I did, I talked about the last time, the last 3 stitches on this, which is hard to see, we'll do it from this side. The last 3 stitches I did in the I-cord, where you slip the yarn forward and then slip the 3 purlwise, and I like that finish. Did it on both of the edges. I do wrap and turn. I don't do German short rows. Wrap and turn is what is in the free pattern from Purl Sew. I just do wrap and turn successfully. And so I will continue to do that. And that's what that kind of looks like. So in DK, for me, I think this, and for the person this is going to, it's going to be quite large, and they'll be able to use it definitely as a blanket and a pillow and a shawl. They're not really a super shawl person, but in a pinch, you know, it might come in handy as well. So anyway, that's the DK version of it, okay? So that's the finished object as far as that is concerned. And then I have a whip. I have a whip. I'm not showing my pressed flowers because I've been working on this really religiously. And my sweater. That's about the extent of the things I've been doing. But this one I tried to finish this weekend, but left some of the skate yarns at home. So anyway, the one that I am working on next, that I have cast on, this is linen quill in kettle black and rhubarb pink. I'm not that far away from it. And on this one, on my other ones the one that I had shown that I had knit originally, I knit that on, I'm going to say a size, my number 1. I knit it on a size 3 needles. I did 260 stitches on it. And after blocking, I was doing like 6 1/4 stitches per inch was my gauge. What happened was when I was done, I had a lot of the 3rd skein left on each of them, and I'll show you how much I had left. And so that one's not as large as I would have liked it. I still love it. I'm not out of love with it. So I thought the next one that I'm knitting, which is this particular one that I have, is that I cast on with a size 5 needle, and there's 280 stitches on it. And again, I'm going to use I'm using the I-cord edge, and I think it's not as noticeable right now, but I think it's a great edge on the end of the shawl. And this is going to be the other colorway in it, is going to be the pink, the rhubarb pink. So I think those are going to go together fantastically. So that's what I'm working on next. And I've kind of got a scoping out of a deadline that I want this done in 6 weeks so I can start another one. So I'm not waiting till the very end to knit all of these. So anyway, those are ones I've got right now, and I hope to get some work done on my pressed flowers this week as well. So I wanted to show you those. So those are the Summer of Shawls that I'm working on in my half and half. I'd love to have you join me doing the half and half shawls as well. And I know that there will be coming out a knit along, future knit along coming out in from the other podcasters that they're doing, and I'll let them talk about theirs as well. So that's coming out. This, I'm just going to say, after the retreat this weekend, there are some knit alongs coming out from now until into the new year. And so stay tuned to hear all about those through all the podcasts. That will be fun to share that stuff with you. And coupon codes I will share as soon as I get them down below whenever possible. And some links to some other things. So last of all, I want to share with you a mail call that I received from Candy. She said she saw these and thought of me, and I received them in the mail, and it was so much fun. And these are going to go into my fall knitting. Share this with you. Some little stitch markers, and my love of Snoopy. For those of you who've been around know that I am a Snoopy. Snoopy. I like Peanuts, but Snoopy is the one that since I was in grade school that I've been enamored with and started collecting and have quite the collection of Snoopy stuff. So my family always knows that, a Snoopy they can always buy me something Snoopy-like. So thank you, Candy. That was such a surprise when I received that. I do appreciate that. We're into August now, guys, and so it's a new page in my journal, right? And so I have some, July I did all of my Sunday squares. I got them all done. And I was just a day late on my Christmas knitting that I had planned. But here's a look at what July's page looked like when I got to put all my stuff on it. Okay. And then moving into what August looks like. I'm having fun with my stickers. Sunday squares. There's only 4 Sundays in August, so I don't have to do as many. I have some ideas for my summer shawls. I want to be working on pressed flowers, and I have an ace still on the needles. I'd like to get that done at the end of the month-ish for my last hospice meeting there. And then knitting for babes. I want to finish up that Darth Vader cape and Ravenclaw scarf for my grandkids, but those can always move to September if I need to. Half and half number 2, I'd like to have it done by the end of the month because I'd like to start a new one. And I have some knit whips, that Niagara that's a great going into that. Those are things I'd like to work on. Let's be honest, not all going to happen in August. It's just not going to do it. And I have some Edie that definitely has to be finished. So here's a little bird's eye view of what what my August page looks like. Like I said, I'm having so much fun with my journal and putting things in there. So that's my little journal and what's going on. I'm adding more things to my journal as it goes along. This weekend, I came back and I put some notes about when I was at the mini meetup, kind of like a diary and some future patterns that I want to look at that people would talk about. I'm like, no, I haven't seen that. So I'd make a little note in my phone, and then when I came home, I added them to my journal under that page on the dedicated a couple of pages to that. So I've got that, put that in my notebook, in my journal, and then a couple of pages before that, a week or so ago, I started a list of fun fall winter knitting ideas of what I wanted to do, like the granito out of linen quill and maybe a daily pullover. A yume. I thought I was going to do yume out of linen quill, but now that I've got this Barocco remix, I've changed my mind on that. There was a metamorphic that I had seen, and then my susurrus. So I've kind of started a little list of things that I want to do. Just fun. And this is my 2022 journal. I'd love to just fill it up with ideas when I'm all done, and then start a new one in 2023. So, and then I have talked about Plotolopi, that I have quite a bit of it, and so I've started making a list of some of the things that I could use that up for. And so I put it in my little book, my little sweater there. So I'm trying to keep some knitting journal notes in here. I didn't take my knitting journal with me this weekend, and I wish I would have now. And I think this is one that, so often I have it right beside my table at night, but I think I'm going to put it in my new Sandy knitting bag so that it's there. I think it's going to be my new knitting bag for a while, and then I'll always have it when I want to go and make notes or whatever. So that's kind of my thought. We'll see. It's getting a little heavy, but anyway, added a couple of pages in also of a little note that I got from Debbie on a little hand cross stitched note card, and also then a card that I got from Candy along with my stitch markers and progress keepers. So, and the date that I received them, my kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I'm loving putting stickers into them. I'm going to go out and search for some more, but I still have quite a few collection, and my daughter-in-law gave me some washi tape, so that's kind of fun too. So anyway, I think that is all that I have to share with you today. Remember, 20% off Pearl Soho. Watch the show notes below. I will link later all the things that I've talked about, and as the coupon codes come through that I can share with you, I will in the notes below, and I'll remind you on the next podcast for those as well. So thank you for all the new subscribers. Thank you for all the kind words out there that you share with us. Thank you for being a part of our community. I am pjknits on Instagram. I am pennyj. That's my login on Ravelry. Our group is pjknits on Ravelry. I have a blog, www.pjknits.blogspot.com, where I talk about knitting as well and life events, knitting on the porch, things that I'm going through, things that I want to keep out there, and maybe they will be helpful to you. So thank you so much for tuning in once again. I hope that you're getting out and going to a knitting retreat soon. A couple of weeks, I'm going to meet up with some friends on another knitting adventure, and I hope to share more along the way with that one as we go, and maybe get them to podcast with me or sit down and talk to me. Debbie and I were going to do that in the room this weekend, and we totally came away, and it was Saturday night, and we're in our jammies, and it was like, oh, we forgot to do this. So we really have to start making a plan for that as well. So I have plans. And so until the next time, please take care of yourself. Knit on with confidence and hope through all crises. We'll see you the next time. Thanks for stopping by. Bye. Love you all.